the Newcastle Knights, and we're starting at fullback. A huge talking point. We'll probably spend half of this night's segment talking on just Kalen Ponga and what to do. So 892.8K fullback only this year, no 5'8" dual, which was a huge plus last year. I think it's really hurt the 5'8" position and made someone like Dylan Brown even more of a must-have in my eyes. 34% ownership at the moment for Ponga. To be honest with you, I can see that going higher as we get closer to the season starts. Everyone knows who has listened or watched our videos or listened to our podcast so far. I didn't actually originally start with Ponga. I've come around to Ponga the last few weeks purely off the fact that there's so much unknown with a lot of the other players that are priced under him. In that next probably 3 to 6 or 7 players below him. And I know Ponga can do it, and he has done it quite frequently the back half of last year. The Knights have a decent run out of the top 8 sides, probably the more friendlier run out of the rest of the 8 sides. That's another +4 Ponga. So I think he's in the top 5 must-haves for 2024. What about you?
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not even going to take the risk and not start him you just got to have him, I feel like. And then obviously you put yourself in a good position to go to anyone else, and that's not a problem. But I think, yeah, if you try and go against the grain and go, oh, Ponga, concussion, this and that, and then all of a sudden Ponga comes out and scores 160 points, which, there's every chance he does against the Raiders, you're going to want him in immediately, and you're not going to think twice about it. You're going to rip your team to shreds trying to get him in. So, yeah, I don't think there's a world where I don't start with Ponga this year.
And you mentioned it quickly before I forget. The first 5 games, I've gotten it done. The Raiders, as you said, round 1. The Cowboys, round 2. The Melbourne Storm, round 3. The Warriors, round 4. And also, the Warriors, round 4. And then the Dragons in round 5. So, again, I said it was an easy draw. Like, you look at the top 8, it's pretty much all hard draws. So that is quite a friendly draw considering.
Yeah, well, he's got the best draw out of everyone else. We've gone over the Broncos and the Panthers, and barring the Sharks and Eels and the Storm too, they get hammered. So barring those other guys, there's no other option. You know what I mean? Like, you can get onto the Walshes and stuff, but I feel like where the fixtures come in, Ponga just has way too much value. And obviously you're not getting him for any other reason besides, scoring 100+ points every week, fingers crossed. That's pretty much it. But it's a shame he doesn't have the dual 5'8" anymore, but I can see why he doesn't, because that kind of would have broken Supercoach a little bit. If you could have Ponga and 2 fullbacks as well. So, that would have been insane to have. But yeah, I just think, it's a lot of it's a lot of money. 892, it's very hard to have him and a couple other guns without really taking a sledgehammer to your side and just destroying it, because you go down. But then again, man, like we've talked about it plenty of times before, where you just have to go down 100K to a point where it's not worth it anymore to not have him. Because you go down, like there's the one below him, Scott Drinkwater's 40K less, who I think is a great play to start as well, with the Cowboys run. So it's just, is it worth the extra 40 for what could be considered, consistency? Like, I feel like Ponga's, he's got to be the guy. And if he's not, then you can go to anyone. But you just have to sort of make that call. But I wouldn't want to get off him that early. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing that.
Watching nervously.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I got to worry about with him is injury.
Yeah.
But he seemed to really come out of it last year, and like, you look at him now too, and he seems so focused on it. So, there's a good chance he does better this year than last year.
He looks so fit, and his mind frame from the interview he said the other day, where he goes, he wants to be back in that Maroon side this year. Where last year it was all, I just want to make sure I'm healthy and I'm all there footy wise. Where I feel like this year he's turned the page a bit. He's gone, I know where I need to be as a player. I'm there. It's time to go back to that next level. and just put everything on the line to make sure I get that jersey back. And I think for a Supercoach perspective, yes, that means we're going to lose him throughout the middle part of the season. It's going to be a pain in the ass, but I look at that and I lick my lips and go, I cannot wait to see what he produces early on then, because I think it's going to be, look at me, Reece Walsh. This is what I can do. Can you do this at a consistent level? And we've already seen there's stuff coming out. I've got a post coming out tomorrow about it as well, or today, but when people listen to this, there's a massive argument already going on about, and it's, we haven't even got into the footy season with Origin and that fullback spot. Both Walsh and Ponga will be going at it week to week. They'll talk about it. They'll say the cliches, but I love the fact that Ponga has come out and not said the cliche and said, "No, I want my jersey. I want it this
Yeah.
year." I
Yeah.
can't wait. I cannot wait to watch Kalen Ponga this year, and that's why I feel like, even more so now after I watched that interview, he's just a must-have. The blonde hair's out. Keep the blonde hair, by the way, Kalen, for the season. I love seeing it. You have to make it work. I'm sorry if that means, and this is what happened with me. I went to Ponga, and it meant I didn't have Payne Haas in my team, and I can warrant that. I'm actually comfortable with that. So
Yeah.
just make it happen,
Oh,
guys.
easily, man. Easily. Like, you're not going to get that sort of point of anyone in the front row. So if you're really splurging the cash there and you don't have Ponga, there's a really good chance that Ponga in one game will outscore both of your front rowers pretty comfortably.
Yes.
And maybe even the reserve ship that you've put on him too. Like, maybe even all four of them. Ponga can outscore all four of them on a good week. And not having him
Yes.
to have, two solid front rowers is going to really hurt big time. So yeah, man, he just had so many monster games. Like, you're looking at, like, towards the last 8-10 games of the year, he was averaging over 100 comfortably. Like, averaging 100, 120. Like, thinking that's insane. And there was 180 in there too. So you just gotta do it, man. And I feel like, players like Tommy Turbo are the same. I'm really struggling to not, have a team with the two of them, because both of them have that kind of upside. But I reckon he gets that jersey back off Walsh, as much as a lot of people
So do
think
I.
it's Walsh's, and you can stir some pots there, and everyone listening, take your
Our
pick.
chat
But
will go off after listening to this, because we've already
I
been
think
talking
so.
about it and it's been a hot discussion today. But
Yeah,
I agree. We haven't even mentioned the captaincy option either. I think he's almost
clear cut
a
every week.
must captain, for the first couple of weeks at least, and then he's a discussion with probably him or Hines. It's basically
Yeah.
him or Hines for mine for the first 5 to 6, 7 weeks. Like, that's
Hmm.
why I've got either of those as my first two must-have options for this year. Um,
Yep.
is
I'm
there
the
much
same.
else to say on Ponga? Because I just feel like we're so in the Ponga thing that there's not even, like, as you said, the concern is his health, but he seems to be on top of that, and the Knights seem to
Yeah,
be on top of it.
I'm not
We're not going to
concerned at all.
entertain.
Hey.
No, there's no entertainment of him going back to 5'8", which is great for us
Yep.
as well. Look, Marzhew's gone, which, okay, that could be maybe a little bit of a concern in terms of try assist, because he did like to go that side. But still, it's Ponga. Like, I know he'll come up with something. He will fix his game to just come up with another way of going about it, and he'll clone someone to be Marzhew, like not Marzhew, to be Dom Young. Sorry, I should be saying. So
Yeah, I almost had me a bit
it's,
confused there. I was like, what have I
yeah,
missed?
no, my bad, it's
Yeah.
Dom Young. But and then Marzhew, there's now talk that he needs to go back over to Marzhew's side more now. But yeah, there's not much concern at all for mine. As you said,
Nah,
it's only
man.
the health thing. But if he is to be out, he's an easy way to downgrade to someone else, because he's that top tier player.
Yeah, it just gives you such a safety net to worry about. But like, as far as it goes, when you start talking must-haves and who do you need to start with, and it's still too early to have anyone as a must-have, in my opinion. But if you're going to go two, it's Ponga and Hines to start with. And I just don't think there's any reason not to. I think you just put it in your team first, and then you just start working around them and just start filling in the holes outside of that. But you just have to have, like, they're both on their day the best captaincy options you're going to have, at the moment. And obviously, you can only look at Ponga for the last year, because the years before that had all that other stuff to worry about. And you're thinking, you're going to just run off one season. But I just see, I can't see it stopping. You know what I mean? Like, it's in full motion now, and he just seems like he's so centered, and everything seems to be right for him. So, yeah, lock it in. Can't go
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I agree. Any fullback options for the Knights? There's Will Price as well, who's come over from the Super League. 45K. We just have no idea what to expect from him. So for mine, he's not an option. Especially if he's only a fullback, he's not going to get in there over Ponga. We need to wait for a Ponga injury to think about it. Who knows if he becomes a winger? Maybe could be if he gets the duel as well, could be an option on that wing in replace of Dom Young, but we'll find out. And the other two, no interest for mine. Marzhew is the next guy to talk about. 5% ownership for the centre wings, 789.2K. Another one of those real high money, high dog rollers, basically. I don't know. Again, I know what he's capable of, and it scares the shit out of me not having him. I just can't start with that.
It's a lot. Like, you can justify it with Ponga, and it's a different position. Yep. You know, fullback. You know, you get him in there. It's your fullback. You got two of them. You pick the best one. You've got 7 centre wings to fill in there, and having someone who's nearly 800K, you basically have nothing left. There's just nothing. I won't start with him, I think, this year. But again, man, I don't see him dipping if he continues to do what Ponga does. And if Ponga's there feeding him, like, what's to say that he ever does go down? There's a reason he got to that price last year, and it was because he kept scoring freaking 100 points. So, like, I reap the benefits of it. I had him many times, but again, you're getting him peak. Like, I think he's the dearest center wing in the game at the moment. So you're sort of just hoping for a dip there, which might never come. So he might just be that premium you get onto at some point because you want to ride it out. But again, the best time to have him is to start. So because you want to take advantage of those fixtures, and it's just how do you make the team look good with Ponga, him, Hines, these other guys? You just can't have them all. So I feel like if someone's got to make the cut, I think you just got to go down from Marzhew to someone attainable. But yeah, if you're one of the 5% that have him, like, you're gone all in.
Good luck.
Big time.
I like your balls. Your big balls.
Big time. Yeah, huge balls.
The next
I feel
player
like Jenkins could be decent too, though. So
yeah. I 602K for Tom Jenkins, though. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to pay for so much unknown. But if he takes off Dom Young's spot, which is expected, you saw what Young did last year with it. But he's a very athletic, tall winger. I don't know what Jenkins's frame is, but that back line last year was so red hot, man. Like, you got all of them. Like, you can put Best in there at 60, fair enough, but all of them were hitting 60, 70s minimum every week almost. So I was like, you just put someone new in there. Fingers crossed they pick up where the other one left off. But yeah, it's not a bad way to get into that back line for that price, considering how lethal they were last year. But it just depends if they can keep it going. But yeah, back to Gagai. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, who do you think was the most underrated Supercoach player of 2023?
Yeah. Well, when we did our team of the years, I think it was the first video that we made, I had Dan Gagai in my team of the year center wing, and with Nin now nothing, no ownership, because he just continued to do this unbelievable job every week, and it was almost unbelievable.
72.4 average.
Yeah,
Holy
he just kept going, man. Every single week was like a 70 or an 80 and 70 and 80, and it was just the same every single week, 70 to 80 points. And you're thinking, fucking hell, should I just get him in? Surely this can't keep going. And he did it the whole season. I thought, for consistency, there's no one better last year than that. So he didn't have those massive games that Marzhew had, but he didn't drop as low as Marzhew did either. So for his floor, but yeah, I'm not about that for 740 again. I'm still not going to do it.
I don't even think his center counterpart, Bradman Best, for mine, 3% ownership, 614.8K. I just can't go there for that sort of price for Bradman Best. I know. I love him as a player. I love the form he's in. I think he's gonna battle for his to keep his Blues jersey next year if both Turbo and Latrell are fit. He'll be in for a massive start to the year to keep that jersey. I don't know. He just doesn't really stick out to me as a player. Like, I need to get into my Supercoach team to start with.
No, not really. And then, like, you got to think too, like, if you've got Ponga, there's got to be someone else there scoring points too. Like, it can't always be him. He's going to be feeding someone. And there's some good options there for him to be, pairing up with and getting these points. And you just think naturally, if Ponga's going to be scoring 100 plus, these guys are going to be doing it too. Maybe not 100, but maybe they're going to be pushing the 70s and 80s like last year. So it is worthy of getting him and, getting him for that play as well, because I can't see him getting left behind while Ponga does what we expect him to do. So it is a lot of coin to spend, and to have a double up of the Knights at the same time, you're thinking Ponga's the one, but you might get the other guy wrong, and you don't want to be spending 790 on Marzhew if Jenkins is doing what he was doing last season and they've just decided to swap, or for whatever reason, man. But I feel like they are quite dear, and for how much coin there is, like, that you barely have left to spread after all those guys, it just makes sense to not have any of them for the time being and just hope they go down. Again, I don't see a massive dip in any of them, but probably Best, actually, I would say, has the most chance, or even Gagai, actually, because Gagai's break evens would be really high.
Yeah.
So there's probably a good chance that he does, tank a little if he does continue what he did last year. But it's very, very situational. But you're just banking on them being as lethal as they were last year, because they weren't to start.
No.
They sort of, they found their form. So.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
The next person that has actually been spoken about a little bit is that Dylan Lucas. 502K, 6% ownership. So there is a bit of interest about him. I'm actually a bit unsure about this one. I don't think he's as popular as being made out to be, especially now we've got the news about Pierce Paul being back sooner than we thought. I think before that, he may have been a bit more of an option, but now I think that's pushed him back, where I don't think he'll get the minutes that he needs to warrant that price tag.
Yeah, if Pierce Paul gets that spot, it looks like they got him there for that reason, to play second row. It's obviously Dylan Lucas filled in last year, so you kind of be banking on him. Yeah, he is dual, and that's where his 6% is. I don't really see the 6% actually in the second rowers, because there is a lot better options for actual 80-minute game time every week below 500. But not as much in the 500s for centre wing. So you definitely be thinking they're playing him there. But you kind of would want, like, I can't see it being a long-term play anyway. He had a good base and, very consistent run when he was playing there. And he had a massive game too. I think he scored, it was very, very late. Like, he had a few here and then it took a big stint and he played the last 2 games. But they were very good games. He didn't really make any problems and no errors. He was just very, very consistent, solid. He did his work and he scored almost 100 points in one of them. So, he can do it. But now that Pierce Paul looks like he's back from trials and, there's a good chance that he starts round 1, I just don't see Lucas getting that edge position anymore. He might just be coming off the bench, and for 500, it's just too dear.
Yeah, I agree. And when we talk about that, the other last player I want to talk about when it comes to centre wings, Jed Cartwright. Again, the dual, the second row forward and the centre wing, 238K, 22% ownership. I think that's because of the price tag. He is a much cheaper option when it comes to that. I think he's guaranteed to play most games, but it's just about probably most of those will be off the bench. We don't know about the minutes. But for 238K, he's currently in my team because it's not much risk involved. Now, as I said, I do think he'll see game time, and I don't think there's going to be a huge cash increase, anything like that. But I'm happy to have him there to see what happens with him.
Yeah, it's low risk, man. 230K, it's just, whatever. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
If you, like, I expect him to play as well off the bench. He might get that 20, 30 minutes here and there. And, there's a good chance that in those games, he might even score a try and then have this really high, break even sort of changeover price and go up and spike a bit and get you into that 300s mid, close to maybe even 400 potentially, if he gets a bit more of that role. So I feel like if that happens, you get off him. and you kind of just cash out and take it to the bank. But yeah, it's low risk, man. You can't really complain about it. If there's a chance that he gets in a starting spot even once, it's always going to help get that bump in cash just for that small window while his break evens have adjusted a little bit. So yeah, there's not a lot of excitement at 238k. It's a very basement price just above it. So you've got him, Strange, Eero's a little bit cheaper. So you can see where the high ownership is. They're just trying to fill those last 2 or 3 spots on the bench. So yeah, no, it's fine. You can even play him in second row too. That's the thing. So you've got that flexibility with him, which is very handy.
Yep, no, I agree. 5/8 options. I want to leave Crossland when we get to the hookers and chat about him and Brayley together because I think there's actually some interesting talking points there. Tyson Gamble for my 1% ownership, 487k. He's just not an option.
No.
He's not even one of the second choice 5/8. I don't think it should be anywhere near that. So 1% is even too much. Halfback Hastings 510k. Jack Cogger 463k. Both 1% ownership. It'd be interesting to see what the Knights do this year when it comes to just this playmaking options. Obviously, 3 can't go into 2. We've seen Cogger's grand final performance. I think it was one of the big. Obviously, Cleary was sensational, but the way Cogger played freed up Cleary to do what he can do. And I think we talk about Ponga. I think Ponga no doubt had a fantastic year last year. Seen him get to a level that we haven't seen before, but I think there's still more to come from Ponga, as we've just spoken about. And I think Cogger would be a perfect player to help get Ponga to another level as he can free him up a bit like he did with Cleary. So I think Cogger's going to get a spot. I just don't know if it's going to be at the halfback or the 5/8 and who it kicks out. So
I would say
I don't think he's a
Gamble
play.
misses. Yeah. You
I
got
don't
to
think
think
either of
Gamble
these are a
sits out.
play. I don't think they're a play Supercoach wise, but I just think that's an interesting quick talking point from an NRL point of view.
Yeah, I don't
Just their
know about a
price
play.
tags.
Yeah, that's the thing too. You know what I mean? But you can kind of compare like Cogger to O'Sullivan in a way if he gets the start. You know what I mean? Like they're just shy off that top group. Obviously, Hastings is at that sort of price point where you'd almost consider him someone that you'd never go against the Cleary Hines discussion of your starting half. Like he's got to be one of the two, and you just got to have that other guy. And it's like 500 is not a bad price to pivot off. And you've got like Fogarty around the similar price point. You got Walker for a bit more, Sam Walker, O'Sullivan for a bit less. So there's a fair few that float around that sort of mid bracket between 4 and 5, closing up on the 600s, where they can kind of do a very similar thing. I think you're probably going to get some safety out of Hastings. I don't think it's too exciting there, but I just don't. It's just nothing too special. But again, like if he's got Cogger next to him, and it's kind of opens him up a little bit to do a bit more. There's a chance he could do more, but still, I'm not in love with the play. So I don't know if it's worth spending too much time talking about it. It's just, then they're not bad priced for a pair of halves. You know what I mean? 450 and 500. But I just think there's just a lot of options at the same time. So where does he fall in? Yeah, he's just below Fogarty, and above Tanner Boyd. Yeah, it's a tricky spot too, because if you had left that half spot free and you did your whole team around it and you built it and you pretty much just locked in, you said, I've fallen in with 500k for my second half. Like, is it Hastings or Cogger that you're going to put in there? I'd be very surprised if it was. Not to say that there's many other, glaring options at that same price, but I don't know. I don't really know. I wouldn't start with either of them, and I'd be hard pressed to trade any of them in at some point either. So, yeah, I'm not too sure when it comes to their halves, man. But you got to think, like, if the team get rolling, someone's got to have potential. So,
You know what you're getting famous for on this podcast? That the quote of "There's not really any point in spending too much time on this, and then spending
too much time
on this."
Yeah, I do that a lot, man.
I love it. I think you're going to be famous. You're going to be famous. No, I'm not. I'll never air on you. You're famous for this now, and just guys, if you ever just from now on, let's just as a token rule for the League of Interest family, when we hear Jesse say it's just not worth spending enough time on this, start timing it, and then just let us know throughout the episode how much time Jesse spent talking about stuff that wasn't worth spending the time on. Second row forwards.
Probably not that
Did you have a
long that
comeback?
took you to explain.
Yeah, sorry. Second row forwards, we start off with, I think, 2 pods. And we're talking pods already. 2% and 1% ownership. Tyson Frizzell, there's rumours that he goes over, I think, to the left side, which is the more predominant side for the man pictured Kalen Ponga that he likes to attack for, which would then mean for mine a bit more attacking stats for Frizzell. I do also think, though, Frizzell might come with a few less minutes this year. I think they might be starting to try and just get quality out of him, not quantity. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's a new thing we need to look out for in Supercoach is a lot of these players playing quality minutes over the quantity. And Adam Elliott for mine, 517K, 1%. If he can get enough, like if he can get enough
sneaky,
time, I think if he's starting lock, I don't mind him.
Yeah, I don't mind
if
it
he
either,
was
man.
if he was front row forward, we won't get into that argument again. I'd probably be even more keen on him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong with that one, man. If he was in the front rows, like it kind of just puts that really handy, healthy spot in the 500s there, which they're lacking. But yeah, I feel like Elliott's very just sort of, glazed over too, like 1% ownership. And I don't really see why, to be fair. I feel like he's probably got maybe 5 to 10 points of upside, at the very least kind of thing. So, for whatever reason, he's just not getting a look in. Maybe Leisha's the one running the pods and he's still slandering his name. So, going back a little bit there, I don't know. It's not an exciting play. If he gets that lock, he scores his 60 whatever points. Like, it's not a bad thing, man. He doesn't have a great deal of ceiling upside, but it's very consistent at least. So, yeah, very surprising ownership's at 1%. But same as Frizzell, 2%.
Yeah.
Not too much there.
Dylan Lucas, we've already spoken about. Kai Pearce-Paul, the man that's hot in the news at the moment, 5% ownership now. I think because the news has come out that he is a chance to play from round 1. The injury, I think it was the toe injury or something that he isn't as serious as first thought. And he's only 345K, so he jumps into that mid-tier to cheap tier category that there is an absolute truckload of players to choose from. It's just about, as I keep saying about this, got to choose the right ones, and we're all going to be scarred by a few. We're all going to claim we've won the lotto with a few as well. So is he in that bracket? I don't know which one he will go for, but again, coming over from Super League, we've seen it happen, and it's a good thing. We've seen him come over, and it doesn't quite work. There is it's a big gamble, but in saying that, it's also not a lot of cash to play with to gamble with either. So I don't know. If he starts, I'm probably leaning towards picking him.
Yeah, I think so. A starting second row, whether he gets 60 or 80 minutes or whatever his role looks like it's going to be, you'd imagine he scores more than 35 points and goes up in cash. So that's kind of the play that you would be. But yeah, there's 3 350K second rows that I'm pretty run with all 3. I might drop one of them off and go down. But yeah, between Pearce-Paul, Tallis Duncan, and potentially Morgan Smithies, like there's a few guys in there that look like they've got a fair bit of value coming in. So yeah, I was, early days a few weeks ago anyway, you'd be saying Pearce-Paul was going to miss the first round, potentially a couple, and Dylan Lucas or Jed Cartwright look like they're getting a look, but it looks like he's actually going to be back for it more than likely. So if he's going to be around for the trials, and we can at least get an idea of how he's going to play, because I don't have a clue, to be honest with you. I don't know how his Supercoach points over in the Super League translated too hard over out this side, and whether or not he's even going to be a relevant player or not. Like, I wouldn't have a clue. But for the price and for what you would expect any second rower that plays 80 minutes or thereabouts to do, you would think they score more than what he's priced at. So just off that, I think the value is there for it. But yeah, just have to keep an eye out and see what he looks like in trials, and if he's looking pretty good, and then all the commentators are going on about him, and everyone's pretty fresh on Pierce Paul, then yeah, definitely. I don't think it's a bad pick to start with at all.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it. The next couple of players on in the options: Matt Croker for 328k, 2% ownership. Jack Hetherington 267. Again, has a few people keen. 6% just never seems to become a real sort of super coach option, even for his price tag. Just never seems to sort of hit the mark. Just more of an annoyance more than anything.
It's
Both
more annoying looking at
players
his
I can
head.
sort of both players I can sort of put into the category of just too much uncertainty, even for a cheaper sort of option. I just don't know what roles they'll both play. They're both sort of watch the first couple of weeks, see what's happening, and then just I feel like the Knights have, when we're looking at this, especially the second row list, there's quite a few options, and they just all can't get 80 minutes, unfortunately. So there's going to be some players that just write themselves off from a Supercoach point of view, purely off the fact they're not going to play the minutes that are needed to do. And I'll throw Brody Jones into that category at 238k as well. Anything final to say about that list, or pretty much the same?
No, not really, man. Pretty much that. Yeah, there's nothing out there that's too outlandish besides, what might Pierce Paul do. That's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, very surprised with Adam Elliott's 1%. That's still got me a little bit like, might be worthy of a little pod play. Pretty decent.
Yeah. No, I do agree. Prop for front row forwards. Safidi, 486k. There's 1% that are going after him. Leo Thompson, front row forward, 458k, 2% ownership. Leo Thompson is a temptation.
Yeah,
I just looked at him then, and I just realized, hang on a second, that's
I said it a
tempting
couple of
as a
weeks ago
second row,
too.
as a
When we're
second
talking about
option.
it. Yeah, I had him in my team, actually. I think it was one of the first teams I made. I put Leo Thompson in there because I think it's probably going to be his best year that he's had up to date. And he's at a nice price, 458. I think I was running with Thompson and Totola as the two of my cheaper options. Which one do I partner with Haas at the time when I was trying to build that team around? But now that I'm thinking I might move away from that, I've started to bring him back into the play of it a little bit. So maybe even both of them, because again, you do want to get on that Knights draw for the start too, because it is quite good. And at 458k, he's just got no downside, I'd say, because he hasn't really ever scored too low. No. Very consistent.
And he should get more minutes.
Yeah.
I think he's one player, even though there's a lot of options here, he'll get more options because he's improving. He's still quite young, very young. I think his brother's signed for him for next year as well. So he's there for the future. He wants to be there. So he's just one player that I see that there's plenty of upside, even as a forward in this Newcastle lineup. I think he'll get increased minutes. His points per minute is pretty good. I'm just quickly bringing that up now. Yeah, 0.9. His points per minute. So he does his work. 44 average 0.9 average of last year. I think that can go up slightly as well. And I'm happy to sit in there and just keep getting me around that 50 mark each and every week, as you said. So I'm actually, I'm tempted to that Leo Thompson.
Yeah. I'm very tempted with Thompson as well, man. Honestly, I have been looking at plenty of teams around him anyway, but I just think if he gets that role and increases 10 minutes, it's not like it's a big jump 10 minutes if he can do a bit with it. But that can put him into that mid 50s bracket pretty consistently, because his points per minute are quite good for how much he plays out there. And you're not going to get the tries out of him. It's never going to happen, but his base is really good, and you don't see a lot of ups and downs. You kind of see him just get out there. If he plays 45 minutes, he'll get 45 points. So naturally with that, you just think, hopefully, if you can bump it up to 50, 55, that's a really fun play, because I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him. And I don't expect a lot of people to get on him too if he starts performing well. I think he's just going to be that guy you see in the list there thinking, oh, he's actually doing okay, but I'm not going to trade for him. I don't see a lot of people getting on the Thompson train. So could be good, man. It really could be. I just don't see downside for him. Same as how I feel about Totola too. They're almost in the exact same discussion with each other, and they're both very similar prices. So
yeah. No, I agree there, and I think that's pretty much it, because it's talking about pretty much every other option. They're a jewel there as well. Hooker is where the final discussion comes into it with the Newcastle Knights. And the main point I want to go here is obviously Jaden Brayley as a cheapie at 330K, 41% ownership. I think that has to be one of the highest owned players in Supercoach at the moment. I can't bring that stat up at the moment. I can't look at that, but he'd be in the top, I think, top 5 at least.
I reckon
So,
it's probably him and Ethan Strange or Kyle Lero would have
yeah,
to be the top 3, I would say, at the moment, without looking and checking them. But
no surprise. He's
wait a minute.
a
I think he might actually be the highest.
there we go.
Him and
He's moved to the lead.
yeah, Ethan Strange is first,
Strange.
46%, and then Ero and Brayley are both equal on 41%. Oh wait, no, Cleary has 42%. Holy shit, there's a lot of heavily owned
Oh,
players, aren't there? Yeah,
Look out.
even
We're all going
Sean
to be
Lane,
versing
man.
each other the same teams in
Sean
round 1
Lane
with the way this
40.
is going.
They're going to be no different teams, man. That's the problem that we have at the moment. Without actual, team lists and trials, everyone's just building what they look like the best value on paper is, and they always change closer to the day. But yeah, I reckon he starts. There's no reason he doesn't, but I reckon he shares probably maybe half an hour with Crossland. Probably dips into him a fair bit. So
You know
yeah.
what? I want to pick your brain with this bit because when it first opened up and everyone was obsessed with him, and 41% is huge.
Mm.
I don't think he has the upside of a 41% owned player now that I think more about it and I strip more of it back because I look at it. I know he's in the captaincy group. He's one of the captains there. He's looked at a lot, and he's had 2 pretty injury riddled seasons now, back to back. And Phoenix Crosland was very good last year. If he wasn't injured at the end of the year, he would have played for the Kiwis. There's no doubt about that. He's at 470K when it comes to Supercoach, 2% owned. I think they're almost a 40-40 split at hooker this year. And I don't think Jaden Bradley's going to get the scores that people are predicting. He's not a very attacking hooker. And if he's not going to be able to get through the base work that people are anticipating, I don't see like I'll still probably start with him after saying this, but I'm not as confident on him anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not. I'm just meh.
It just depends on what
I
role
need to make
Crossland
early
has.
money to then get off him.
Yeah, it just depends on how Crossland takes points off him. Crossland had better points per minute than Bradley did. He was at 0.6 before he got injured, where Crossland kind of was a 0.7 throughout the year. So, it's near about nothing different. But it like in 80-minute roles, you're going to get 50 or 60 out of Brayley. You know what I mean? It's just if that cuts down in half, obviously his points output cuts down in half. And then you're basically talking about where he's priced at as what he can actually do. And that kind of defeats the purpose of 41% ownership. So, at the same time, like I suppose now that, words come out, Brad Arthur wants an 80-minute hooker, and you've got Brayley sandwiched between both of your Eels hookers, depending which one it's going to be, with a lot less ownership. It might be even just worth looking at that for the fact that they're definitely going to play 80, where at the moment it seems like the general consensus is Brayley's not going to get the full 80-minute game because Crossland did nothing to lose that position besides him just coming back.
And that was the big upside for him as well. The big upside to him was the fact that getting him for 330K, you just saw dollar signs. But the more you think about it, as you just said, like I don't know if you will get the dollar signs that you're anticipating. And there's potentially we've got to wait for round 1 team lists. There could be other options that are much better cash grab options. Like the whole purpose of going for Jaden Brayley was cash. Let's not kid ourselves. We weren't going to hold him all year. We're going to get him up to hopefully around probably 500K maybe, and then go, what can we do with that? Let's move him on and hopefully get like a grant in getting rid of someone else or something, or getting into that JMK or the like, or Cook, and getting that double good hooker maybe. I'm not sure what people were thinking, but
Yeah.
I think it defeats the purpose having Crosland there, knowing he's going to be playing some minutes.
Yeah, like I got Brayley in my team at the moment, but I've been looking at, the Hands-Lussick combo just under him, thinking which one's more than likely going to get it. I would say probably Hands gets it out of the two of them, considering what's most likely to happen, even though Lussick's a bit cheaper. You can kind of get that little bit extra coin there. But, hey?
I think it's Lussick, unfortunately. Brad Arthur loves him, but we'll talk about it in the para one. Yeah.
Right,
I would go personally Hands. Hands is
I would go personally Lussick, so I'm fine with that.
Of course.
But that's a different discussion. Yeah, that's a different discussion altogether. But Brayley's right in the middle, and you can make that swing either way. You know what I mean? Like you can save a bit, go down, and you've got a potentially 80-minute hooker right there staring at you, and you haven't chosen him. So, it's 41%, and I feel like that's if it doesn't go up any higher, it's going to stay there because it's 41 already. You know what I mean? Like it's very easy to just go sort by highest owned and go, oh, Brayley's only 330. That's such good value. But then you got to consider what role Crossland's going to have. So it's just going to depend, man. It really does. But yeah, if he loses 20, 30 minutes, I feel like he needs that 20, 30 minutes to really bump him up into a nice price point. Like he'll probably still go up in price. He'll probably go up 100K. Or, maybe just a bit under if he loses a fair bit of minutes to Crossland there. But that's not a bad thing. You're still going to get him fairly cheap. And you still might do something right for you. But at the time, there could be better option cashies at the similar price point. So you just got to look very close to the day and right before the round starts, just see what's most likely to happen. But yeah, I see Brayley's points getting hurt a little bit.
Yep. No, I agree, and I think that's a good way to end a Newey trip with a cheap hooker discussion. So let's